Hello, I'm your host, Jana Harmon. Welcome to SciBee, stories where former atheists and skeptics share their journeys from disbelief to belief in the reality of God and the truth of Christianity. Today, we're taking a break from our normal podcast schedule to share some exciting news. We're about to make some important changes, and we're looking forward to bringing you along on this next chapter. For the past 3.5 years, you have been incredibly faithful in listening to these real-life testimonies from former skeptics. Thanks to your support, SciBee Stories has remained in the top 1% of all globally ranked podcasts. And for that, we're deeply grateful to all of you. Since we began in October of 2020, we've expanded from an audio-only podcast to include a website and a YouTube channel, making these stories more accessible to anyone searching for truth and life in Jesus Christ. If you or someone you know is curious about the question of God, our podcast shows how ideas about the world intersect with real lives and how people search for truth. It shows how those seemingly far from God find the best answers to life's biggest questions about who we are. Our podcast is filled with all different kinds of people asking the same kinds of questions, with story after story of those who once doubted, resisted, or rejected God, yet who are now passionate followers of Christ. These stories began with a low view of God, Christians, or Christianity, rejecting faith and belief for different reasons. They may think that God isn't good, as in Stephen's story.
Hey, we're shaped a lot by our fathers and by our parents, as kids especially. And what I witnessed was very traumatic. Some of the brutal moments where I saw my father, physically beating on my mom. That's something that's really hard for an 8-year-old to sit and watch and process, right? So to me, it was that, okay, if this is who Jesus is, he's not good. If he's even real at all, he's not good, because this is obviously what people who believe in him act like, right? And so I think at the end of the day, the biggest lie that stuck with me about God is if he's real, he's not good.
Or they may think that belief in God is simply unintelligent, that it's untrue, not based in reality, as in Kirk's story.
I sort of took the view that it was, and this is a view a lot of people have, that it was sort of just something people leaned on as a crutch, and it was totally fictitious. I mean, I equated God with the tooth fairy and leprechauns and all that kind of stuff, so there was no difference to me whether between them. So when I looked at science, I saw them trying to work hard to come and discover what the facts were and put together an explanation that made sense and held up to testing. And I didn't see any of that in religion. So I've said, it's all a pipe dream. They all just are doing it because it makes them feel better, or because that's what their mommy told them to do.
Or more commonly, they may simply think that there's no need for God, that belief in God just doesn't matter, as in Mark's case.
If I were talking to the old me, I would say, what have you read? What have you considered? What comes of what you believe? And there was literally zero consideration. It was very hedonistic, to be honest with you. And I don't mean that in the sense that I just wanted to enjoy earthly pleasures. I mean in the sense that I was just indulging my own thoughts, because my thinking was, look, I think I'm a pretty good person, and I think I lead a pretty good life. And so I don't really need God, right? So why would I spend any time on this? I've made my decision. There is no God. I don't need God. And so it was very internally focused. It was me focused, I focused, had nothing to do with any other consequences.
But then those who once rejected God somehow find themselves believing in the goodness, truth, and relevance of God, and their lives are completely transformed. They become huge advocates for the faith that they once adamantly rejected, like Adrienne, who once described herself, and I quote, as a chain-smoking, tattoo-covered, sexually promiscuous, suicidally depressed atheist that was transformed by Jesus, end quote. But now she encourages others who are curious about God to take another look.
I would just encourage someone that if you're in pain, to try something different. It's like, if you're so far gone, if you're so desperate, if it's so bad, you might as well try something different and just give it a chance. that is what I did. And I couldn't do it myself. I was powerless, but God is not powerless. He can do it. And so I let him. I let him take over, and I have been following him ever since. And I would just encourage anyone to, honestly and earnestly look into it and give it a try.
These stories of life change are really nothing short of extraordinary. So now, to our exciting and important news. We will still bring you these incredible stories of life change, but with a brand new look and a brand new name. Starting on August 30th, we will no longer be known as Side B Stories. We are changing our name to eX-skeptic, Unlikely Stories of Belief. That's eX-skeptic. And you'll see our new brand across all of our platforms, on our podcast, on our YouTube channel, and on our website at eX-skeptic.org. Until then, continue to enjoy our content through Side B Stories, but be on the lookout for a change. If you already follow the Side B Stories podcast, you will automatically be subscribed to the eX-skeptic podcast feed. So there's no need to worry about trying to resubscribe. If you don't already follow our podcast, please take a moment to do that so that you won't miss any more episodes. Plus, we have an amazing backlog of stories waiting for you to hear. Come along with us as we celebrate this exciting new change and as we grow with new opportunities for better connection and engagement. Our first eX-skeptic podcast will be our 100th episode and will feature the story of the former atheist known as Darwin to Jesus on Twitter. He's now a strong advocate for belief. Here's a bit of what you'll hear.
My name's Daniel, and I am a Christian. I am passionate about Christianity and about my relationship with Jesus Christ. And I am a former atheist. I consider myself to have been a lifelong atheist. And right now, one of the things I primarily do is I have a Twitter account named Darwin to Jesus. And I'm trying to outreach to atheists. That is the main thing that I care about as far as what I do online. And so I'm reaching out to atheists and I'm challenging them. And a lot of them may not like me, and I felt the same way about apologists when I was an atheist. But I'm engaging with them, trying to have conversations with them. And ultimately, the idea is to lead them to Jesus Christ, lead them to the Savior.
What must have happened to have taken someone like Daniel from being such a staunch atheist to becoming such a bold and active apologist for Christ? You'll have to listen in and find out, and I hope you do. These are the kinds of stories we bring forward every other Friday to encourage you in whatever place you find yourself. As a skeptic, open enough to take a closer look at God or Jesus, or as a follower of Christ who wants to have meaningful, respectful conversations with others. We're looking forward to connecting with you through eX-skeptic, where we will hear more unlikely stories of belief. We hope to see you there.